To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's a wild ride in the wilderness.
When invisibility doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we're back from our big Disney vacation.
Yay! I'm excited to talk about this. You have done a bunch of things that have come up in the years since I was there. Not even a year. So I'm excited to hear what you got to do.
Yeah, and like I've said before on the show, with this trip, it was a lot of things that I was really excited about. A lot of really great dining opportunities. I feel like the last couple of trips have been kind of big dining trips for me. And Kristen and I kind of talked about this too. By the way, Kristen's here. Kristen, say hi.
Hello.
I'm so excited to get into this trip. I completely forgot that we finally have Kristen on the podcast. She's happy to be here. Anyways, but yeah, the past two trips have been real dining heavy. So we'll be able to kind of talk about that. And Genie Plus, of course, Genie Plus, we use Genie Plus a whole lot. So we'll be able to talk about that. And just kind of our experiences along the way. Anyways.
If Kristen's not going to talk, Moo will.
Moo.
Anyways, we'll get started. We have plenty of stories to tell, but our first story has to do with getting to the plane. We won't bore you guys with a lot of details, but basically we're flying Spirit, and if any of you know, you have to get to Spirit flights 45 minutes before to check a bag, and we did not do that. And we get there, and
like 15 minutes before, probably
15 minutes before the plane is supposed to depart. And I have to say, Kristen was the one that made the whole trip happen in the first place, because she would not take no for an answer. Pretty much, they told us that we needed to rebook a flight, book a different flight, and she pretty much just picked up the bags and was like, we're gonna try to make this flight, which is interesting. I honestly never knew you could do something like that.
It probably helps that that's not the first time that I've had that type of airport experience. I'm pretty notorious for getting to the airport very late, so yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, she's the reason that first day happened, because we were able to take the bag we were going to check straight up to where our flight was, like our gate, and they checked the bag at the gate and then put it on the plane. I never knew you could do something like that. And I think we got lucky because our plane actually changed gates at one point. So they were kind of behind putting people on the plane. So lots of things had to fall in place for us to make this flight, but we did, and I'm happy we did.
Well, that is pretty exciting. Mykhailo, you posted that you had a pretty, adventurous start to your trip. So I was curious how that worked out.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just so that the listeners know, I really haven't, other than a couple things. I was documenting most of what I was doing on Snapchat, but Brian and I haven't had any time to like go over everything. So he's hearing all of this stuff just as I'm talking about it right now.
Yeah, so we're actually recording a night early because I couldn't wait. So,
anyways, so the first night in Disney, we landed around was it like 1:00?
1:30.
Yeah, about 1:30. We caught an Uber. That's one thing that I've been doing now the past couple trips, and actually even since before Magical Express was gone, I had been doing this just because it's just a lot easier to. I think the first time I did it was because my family took the bags, and then I think it was me and my brother ended up just going straight to the parks. So if all you have are like backpacks and stuff that you want to take to the parks, you can just go straight to the parks from the airport using an Uber. But that's something that I've been doing for a while anyway. So I was able to catch an Uber from the airport, which was actually really easy. It was a little too easy. We were still waiting for bags when the Uber showed up. So and actually I should specify we used Lyft the entire time, and that's also because Disney used to have like a contract or something with Lyft. Their minivans, meaning air quotes, used to be Lyfts. So for some reason, Lyft is just a lot cheaper in Orlando than Uber is.
And how much was your Lyft ride?
Both Lyfts. Well, actually, the first Lyft was around like $35 from the airport to All-Star Movies. The second Lyft that we took from the Universal Hotel to the airport was at like 5 a.m, and that was a $65 Lyft. And I'm guessing that's just because it was so early in the morning. So that might be something to think about and kind of factor that in, that possibly if you're taking a Lyft super early in the morning, those prices are going to be higher.
And remind me of distances. Universal, I can't believe I just had to say that. Is Universal farther from the airport?
Actually, Universal is closer. Universal is only about 20 minutes to the airport, whereas Disney's around 35 minutes.
And remind me, Universal is some other type of like place you want to visit down there, or I don't know this. I have some aversion to this. What's going on here?
We will get to that in due time, Brian. we have plenty to say about Universal versus Disney. But moving on to our day that day, we were able to kind of hang around Disney property. We went to Disney Springs for a little bit, and then we had our first really magical experience at Disney, and that was at California Grill, and that place is just insane. It was definitely the fanciest dinner that we had there, and that's saying something because we had some pretty great reservations on this trip. But this one was way above a lot of the other places that we went to.
And I've been telling you that this is the place to go. And I'm always telling everybody, get your reservation for fireworks, show up early so that you can possibly get a spot at the window. So I'm so happy to hear that you guys had a great experience there. I did get a snap from you that showed some fireworks. I know you had missed the Magic Kingdom fireworks, but you caught a little bit of Harmonious, it looked like.
Yeah, you can definitely see both fireworks. Harmonious, you don't really see that much of. You just kind of see that there's fireworks in the distance. But we enjoyed that. And we also enjoyed after we ate our dinner, which was very good. We kind of went not out of our comfort zones, but like we didn't order like the typical. I would have ordered a steak, but I knew I was having steak the next day, so I ordered pork. The pork was good. It wasn't like life changing, but it was very good. And then Kristen, you had like a seafood dish.
Yeah, I had like a seafood soup for my entree, and it was good. I wasn't like amazed by it. I was amazed by the sushi. They had good sushi.
Best she've ever had, yeah.
She had, yeah. I had some of that sushi too, and Brian, I think I told you I'm starting to get into sushi, so I very much enjoyed that sushi too. I also had, I believe it's the lobster bisque that was like one of the signature things from California Grill, and Kristen had some too. We basically split all of the stuff we ate at Disney. So I really enjoyed that. That was very, very good.
That's a trick that I've often told couples when they're going, is that you can save a lot of money by just splitting the meals, because it's so much. You can just split them. We've done that. Interestingly, I had another friend down there last week as well. And they ended up at Big River Grill, which is over in the boardwalk area, for dinner. And it reminded me, and I told him the same thing, is get the meatloaf. And they actually split it for us. And when they split it and they brought it out, it was so big. I said, "This is split?" And he said, "Yeah, we split it out for you." I'm like, holy cow. So, yeah, you can definitely save some money by splitting meals.
Definitely. So, we had our meal. One thing to note about California Grill is that it's very fancy, and honestly, some of the best and most attentive service I've ever had at a restaurant before. And I think that just kind of that's because it's so fancy. It's just got that like lure of fancy and like upstanding feel to the restaurant. And so that, I mean, I thought it was amazing, but I guess it's just something that, like, with fancy restaurants, that's what happens. But it was very cool to have somebody giving us service that way, because I've really never had that before. We also had a table next to the kitchen, which it's like an open air kitchen, so you can kind of see like what everybody's doing. I thought that was really cool. So it was a really fun experience, and honestly, probably the most fun I had was actually going outside to like the outside areas where people go and watch the fireworks. And like, there weren't any fireworks happening. We just had these amazing views of the parks. So if you're at California Grill, definitely take some time and go out there. Even if there's nothing going on, go out there and take a look at these amazing views that you can get at California Grill.
Yeah, we were so enamored with Magic Kingdom that I didn't even go over to the other side of the restaurant and look around at all. I should have done that next time.
Yeah, we were actually able, and this is kind of funny, having somebody who is also very into Disney with me, because I was ready to just kind of like peace out. Like, when we were done, like, I was just ready to like get on the elevator, and all of a sudden Kristen kind of like pulls me back, and we start looking at all of the amazing art that they had on the walls, because it was all of this like history of the California Grill and all of these like old pictures for the 50th anniversary and everything. So that was really cool. I don't think I even mentioned that to her, that she did that for me, but that was really cool that we were able to kind of like stop and look at. It was like, it's the very first wall as you walk in that was just plastered with pictures, old pictures from California Grill. So that was really cool to see too.
That was probably my favorite part, to see like the history of it all, because I love Disney. I also love history. And the combination is really cool, because the pictures, like it looked the same, but different. It's hard to explain. Like, it still looks like it's like that, 1971 vibe, but just a little updated. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. So that was the end of our first night. And it was, I mean, what a way to start a trip at one of the most, the fanciest restaurants that you can go to pretty much on Disney property. That was really great. We again Ubered back, because actually our lifted back. Our reservation was for 9:00, mm-hmm. And so by that time, I think there were still buses at the bus depot for Magic Kingdom, but we just didn't want to risk walking over there and then missing one of the buses, because at that point it had been past like 45 minutes, the usual that they keep buses running after parks are closed. So we ended up lifting back to the hotel, which you might have to do if you do have a really late reservation at some of these hotels. because typically if you're going from hotel to hotel, you have to go back to like a park or Disney Springs or something like that, and then connect to a bus that's taking you back to your hotel. So that's one thing that we did. We probably could have gotten ourselves to Disney Springs and caught a late night bus, but we just didn't really want to mess with that at that point.
And also, it was cold outside. We hit Florida on the coldest week of the year.
I think in 5 years even.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned that, and yeah, that first night it was already like pretty cold, and I mean, coming from Wisconsin, like we had jackets, and like I thank God I like packed a couple pairs of pants, because I think I wore shorts once, and it was the final, like the one time it hit 70 at Florida, and we thought the weather was amazing. But I had all these shorts and I didn't wear them because it was so cold out.
I've got a friend that they said they were actually camping Saturday night, which ended up being the coldest night in 5 years in Florida. So they had been down there or out camping with a bunch of like Boy Scouts or something.
Oof, yeah, we were in a park on Saturday. We're not going to talk about it that much, but we were in Universal on that Saturday, and we ended up rage quitting on Universal because it was so cold. So yeah, we ended our day early out at Universal, but we'll get to that a little later. So our first day in the parks was Epcot. And we had kind of been going back and forth on Epcot whether or not we wanted to use Genie Plus, because at one point we were of the mind that we were just going to use Genie Plus on all the days, because we were down there and we wanted to get as much out of the parks as we could. And then we kind of started to go back and forth. Well, okay, maybe we only use Genie Plus in Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom because those are going to be the real busy parks. But at kind of not really at the last minute, we decided to use Genie Plus at Epcot also, just because of all the things we wanted to get done, and just kind of utilizing that. And I feel that was a great idea, mainly because so Epcot wasn't really that busy, and because of that, the thing we were able to do is once we got to our rolling fast pass, like once we used or rolling lightning lane, once we used the one that we booked early in the morning, which was I think it was for like really early, like it was probably for like 11 o'clock. Once we used that, it kind of turned into like we had the ability to book things. We were able to book lightning lanes like 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes before we were able to like get on to rides. So we would basically just kind of go into Genie Plus, see what ride we wanted to ride, and most of the time they had lightning lanes for like 5 to 10 minutes later. So we would just select that, go to the ride, and get into the lightning lane, and then use it, and then we'd be able to book another one. And I'm pretty sure this is just because like that park just really wasn't that busy that day. So we basically just kind of used it as like a skip the line that day. And I feel like that worked out really well for us, because we barely stood in long lines at all that day. I thought that maybe had we not used Genie Plus, there would have been a couple abnormally long lines for smaller attractions, maybe, or like really big ones, because we did rope drop test track. We kind of rope drop test track. That was it. Was unavailable as soon as we got into the park because it was down. So we rode Mission Space, and we have something to say about that too. But yeah, the way we used Genie Plus on that slow day worked out really, really well for us at Epcot. Now,
we did also book the individual lightning lanes, so we already had time slots for Remy's and for Frozen, so we didn't have to worry about waiting in those lines.
And honestly, those were the longest lines in the park at that point anyways. And so kind of everybody was funneling in there, and that was really nice to not have to worry about at rope drop. We were able to kind of like go to wherever we wanted because most everybody was funneling over to Remy's and Frozen during that point. So and this is the funny thing, is that I would highly suggest, even on slightly not too busy days for Epcot, doing Genie Plus, just because of the sheer convenience of it for us. And maybe we would have had the same kind of experience had we not done Genie Plus, but just how great it was to be able to just book lightning lanes for like 5 minutes prior, was great. So that was the way that we utilized Genie Plus at Epcot. We are going to mention Mission Space because it wasn't really an incident, but that was the first ride we went on, and I took my Dramamine. Kristen did not, and she was not feeling too great after that ride. And I kept telling her, I was like, we don't have to do this one like right away, but it was the ride right next to Test Track that we were able to get on. So and she was kind of gung ho about getting on it, and then after we rode it, just was kind of regretting that.
We also rode Mission Orange. And I guess a side note, so I'm a huge Disney fan, but this was only my third time ever being at Disney. So I feel like I'm definitely not on par with Kylo and Brian for what they know, but I do watch a lot of YouTube. So I feel like I did pretty well keeping up with Kylo of like where to go, what to do. But I was so excited to ride Mission Orange because when I went 3 years ago, I had no problems with motion sickness. But this trip, it was just awful for me.
And I have to say, she was definitely a trooper with a lot of that because, Brian, you had mentioned with Mission Space that like you ride that in the beginning of the day and it could possibly ruin your day. And she didn't really let that happen, but I could tell that it kind of like put a little dampener on a lot of what we did. So we definitely made sure that we were taking our Dramamine the rest of the trip. And so that's just kind of another thing to think about when you're going to the parks, not when you're in advanced age, as if like we're not really at an advanced age. We're pretty much in our 30s. But that might be something to think about. If you haven't been to a theme park in a while, or if you haven't ridden some of these rides in a while, they may affect you in a bad way. And it may affect you differently than it did when you were young and you were going to these parks. So that is definitely something to think about, especially with Mission Space, because that's the one that will really get you.
So you got in Test Track and Mission Space, it sounds like, right in the morning. How was Remy's?
We basically just walked on because, like I said, we had the individual lightning lane. So it's kind of sad that we like missed like basically all of the queue probably of walking through it. It was a cute ride. I feel like if I was feeling better, I would probably have different thoughts. But it, like the virtual screens and the glasses, was just kind of rough for me after going on Mission Space.
Yeah, and we, I should mention this as well. When we booked these lightning lanes, it was one of the easiest things I've done. And I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast. If you just wake up early and you're in there like ready to go to like select what you want, you pretty much got a pick of what you can get when it comes to dining or these individual lightning lanes. I was in there at 7 a.m. and I was able to book. And I think I actually I booked Remy's right away. That was the very first one I got. I think that was like 11 a.m. or something like that, kind of around there, maybe even earlier. But then after that, I went in to book Frozen because that was another individual lightning lane. And I could book it for whenever. I think like 9 a.m. was an option at that point. And so I actually I went backwards because I knew that we weren't going to be back in that area until later. So I think I booked it for like 2 p.m. or something like that. So yeah, if you guys just wake up early and try to get these lightning lanes, it's actually really, really easy. It used to be harder when they had those virtual queues, which actually I don't think any rides have virtual queues anymore. I actually think Remy's used to have a virtual queue, but I don't think it does anymore because I was just able to book the lightning lane right away. So yeah, it's just wake up early, be there, be coherent when you need to book these lightning lanes, and you'll pretty much get what you want. So that's my big tip for Genie Plus and booking these individual lightning lanes.
And if you have more than one person in your group, Kylo would always book the individual lightning lane, and then I would book just like the Genie Plus, which actually when I would book those, I feel like those slots filled up quicker than the individual lightning lanes because some days we didn't get our first Genie Plus ride until like the afternoon, but then they have the 2-hour rule. So 2 hours after the park opened, then you can start like booking more and stacking more onto that.
Yeah. So, Epcot worked out really well for Genie Plus. The other thing we did at Epcot was Le Cellier, and this was super exciting for me because this is one of those restaurants that I would hear about all the time, and people would say, "Oh my God, it's amazing," and Brian would rub it in my face talking about all the times that he has been to Le Cellier and how amazing it is. And honestly, it was really, really good. I thought the ambiance, I really enjoyed the ambiance, just kind of knowing the backstory and like knowing what it was supposed to be. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was very cool. But yeah, just some amazing steaks, some amazing food. We had the beer cheese soup, and I dipped all sorts of breads into it. It was very good. Yeah, just another amazing Disney meal experience. And it was very cool to kind of like check off a whole bunch of these bucket list things just like on this one trip. And there had always been kind of like this shadow over Le Cellier. Like I'd never been there. And so it was very cool to kind of like take that off and finally be able to do it and say that I've been there. But yeah, just amazing food. Not as good service at this place, but you kind of have to understand that you're in a park. I feel like it's a little easier with some of these restaurants that are at hotels to let things slow down and just kind of like let you enjoy your meal. Not that we didn't enjoy our meal, but at the theme parks, it definitely kind of feels like here's your meal. Like, are you enjoying the meal? Good. Okay. And then they try to get you out. Not that they were trying to like usher us out. But you definitely got the feeling that that you were in a theme park and like they were trying to get to all of these people. So that's one thing that we experienced with Le Cellier. Service was a little quicker than it was a lot quicker than it was at California Grill.
Well, that kind of feeds into, I think, how Tammy and I operate, where we don't even want to eat at a restaurant in a park now, because I think we're kind of sitting there going, all right, let's move on, So if they are kind of hurrying things along, I think that might play into play into it too. Like you're going to have people that are like, okay, time to move on. I got to get to my next thing. So.
And I kind of feel that same way. I think Kyle and I talked about for our next trip, we would try to do less sit down dining reservations. But now that I think about it, I really want to try Space 220.
Yeah, there was at one point at one of the dining experiences that we had at Ohana. We had talked about that, I think like the day or maybe like earlier that day, that we were like, yeah, maybe we do less like sit down restaurants and do more quick service stuff. Cause we had a lot of good luck at some good quick service places. And then we went to Ohana and Kristen was like, yeah, never mind. Cause we had some amazing food there. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, Epcot, we had a lot of fun. We were able to utilize Genie Plus really well there, just kind of because of the crowds and everything. One thing that we didn't do, which I think we're kind of regretting a little bit, but we'll be able to do it on other trips, is we didn't have a lot of like food from the food booths. I think we had, what was it? Like grilled cheese and tomato soup
At Pop Eats, where the sold out Figment popcorn bucket was.
He's not
think,
bitter at all.
I got one. Not from the parks, from eBay.
Yeah, we definitely did that.
I got suckered in.
I think at one point, somebody actually walked into line with a Figment popcorn bucket, and I was like, they're coming back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, I think that was the only like festival booth that we stopped at for quick service. We did get Joffrey's coffee because Kylo was getting a discount being D23. What else did we eat that day?
So we had Joffrey's coffee, and Brian, I can tell you that the Joffrey's coffee that we had at Epcot was restoring my faith in Joffrey's coffee. We actually got 2 fancy drinks. I think I got like the 50th. It had like Fruit Loops on it. I forgot what it's called. But then Kristen also got.
Mine had the Fruit Loops on it.
Oh yeah, hers had the Fruit Loops on it. And then actually, yeah, mine was like the 50th drink. It was like the iridescent. It had iridescent sprinkles on it or something like that. We also got I love, this is one thing that I've always loved from Joffrey's is the giant donut. So we got one of those too. And that was really good.
Yeah, I don't think we had any other snacks that day, which is sad because there's so many snacks to be eaten.
Yeah, and Le Cellier is kind of a heavy meal. We had that around like 320. And I think after that, it was just kind of like drinks and little things here and there, but we didn't, I think I got popcorn at some point, but nothing, like nothing too big. We didn't really go through the, all of the different food booths, and hit a bunch of food at the festival. So that's one thing that we kind of regret doing, but, again, it's definitely something that we'll be able to do again at some point. But that's something to keep in mind is if you are going to have dinner at one of the amazing sit down restaurants, that might kind of like be your dinner. Whereas you could totally put together a dinner with all of these food booths that are happening during a festival that's happening at Epcot. So it's kind of like, which one do you want to do? Do you want to assemble a dinner with the food booths, or do you want to have a dinner at one of the sit down restaurants? And for me, I've always liked to do the sit down restaurants at Epcot just because there's so many to choose from and they're all amazing. So I think that's kind of why I've always been partial to eating my meals there.
So you finished up your day at Epcot. Do you use buses to get back to the hotel?
Yeah. We bussed back to the hotel, and then pretty much like went right to sleep because we were having another real early day. We were trying to hit up the parks during the extra magic hour, the early extra magic hours for the hotels, and those were 30 minutes before. Which honestly, with Epcot, we were able to kind of get done what we kind of wanted to get done, which was we were able to get 2 rides. Not even technically 2 rides, because I think the park had just been opening when we got in line for Test Track, and Test Track while we were in line for Test Track, it kept breaking down, and so that was one thing that we had to deal with. But for the most part, with those 30 minutes, if you plan things correctly, you can get done a good amount of things. But our next day was Animal Kingdom, and that's kind of when the rain started in Orlando, and so it was kind of like a gloomy, rainy day, and it also got cold. So we ended up wearing ponchos most of the day. This was something that we didn't mention at Epcot, but we probably should mention. And it was something silly that we had to figure out at the end of our trip. But we actually bought Memory Maker, and so we had PhotoPass stuff, and Kristen had been tapping her Magic Band for all of the PhotoPass stuff. And so whenever I went into my account, I couldn't see any of those pictures. So we were like, oh, we need to get that figured out. We need to have her added to my Memory Maker. But turns out you actually just have to hit a tab in PhotoPass or in Memory Maker to see everyone. So if somebody's connected to your account and they tap their Magic Band, it will still show up on your account. There's just a little tab that you have to hit, and it says "See everyone." So that was one thing that we thought we needed to figure out, but turns out Disney already thought of that. So that was one thing that we thought was weird, but we were utilizing that a lot, and there are a good amount of spots in all of the parks to be able to take pictures. And every so often, I think it was raining when we did the first one, and we actually just found a PhotoPass person just like under a ledge or something, and we were like, "Are you taking pictures?" And I'm thinking she was just trying to stay out of the rain, but she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just doing close-up pictures." And so she just like took a couple pictures of us close up. But that's what you can do. Is like anytime you really see them around, approach them and ask them to take a picture. There were a lot of times where like parks were closing, or even in hotels, like they had PhotoPass people at the Grand Floridian to take pictures. That's what we're there for. So really anytime you see them, ask for a picture, because if you're seeing them, then they're on the job. They're there to take pictures. So that was fun to be able to do.
You can also look up the PhotoPass locations on My Disney Experience.
You can just know that they're not always accurate, and there's usually more than what's out there. So,
but so Animal Kingdom, we were able to get an individual attraction for Flight of Passage, and then I think that was the only one that was running, because the Yeti Everest wasn't running, of course, and that's like my favorite ride there. So it's sad, but that Flight of Passage was the only individual lightning lane that we were able to get. We did Genie Plus at this park as well, or no, we didn't. This was the only park that we didn't do Genie Plus at.
Just the individual lightning lane.
Just the individual lightning lane that we did. So we were able to book that. And then what was the other lightning lane that we booked for that day?
That was the only one because that was the only individual lightning lane
Oh
available.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, so we rope dropped Navi River Journey. And then after that, we went and did the safari,
Mhm.
which I was kind of nervous about with it being raining and cold. But we actually got to see a lot of cool things happening with the animals.
Yeah, and that's something that this is honestly the second safari in a row that I've been on that I really enjoyed. And again, we hit it early in the morning. So apparently that's just what you got to do is go on the safari early in the morning because that's kind of when animals are doing stuff. I think there were a couple of times that we had giraffes in the way, so we just kind of had to like sit and wait for giraffes to move. And then when we got up to where the giraffe was, they were just like right next to the road. So we had this giraffe right next to our vehicle. So that was really cool.
Very cool.
So after that, we hit up a couple more rides. We did notice, I mean, the wait times were a little more than we were experiencing at Epcot. However, it definitely felt like you didn't necessarily need Genie Plus for this park. I'm trying to think of like the longest line that we stood in really at this park.
Was it? It's tough to be a bug.
That's kind of what I was thinking, that it might have been. It's tough. And that's actually probably just because it's a show. So the first show was going while we were waiting for it. So that's kind of what I thought too. Like maybe it was just as tough to be a bug. But yeah, for the most part, we really didn't wait in too long of lines. That might have also been because it was rainy and it was cold. However, it was cold, and I actually think it rained maybe a couple times at Hollywood Studios, but that didn't really deter people from Hollywood Studios. But yeah, we feel like you really didn't need to do Genie Plus at Animal Kingdom. That may be different when it's busy. Obviously, I think obviously I would suggest anytime you're going to be going during the busy season to use Genie Plus. And it might just be because Expedition Everest wasn't running, so there wasn't like that other real big ride that we needed to get on. However, even when it was running, I was hearing tales of it only being like a 15-minute wait time. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens when it does come back online and see if it does get those long wait times. But yeah, for the most part, we were able to navigate the whole park without Genie Plus and really not have to wait too long anywhere. One thing we did that was new to me and that I was actually very excited about was we went to
Festival of the Lion King.
Yes. That was very fun. Honestly, that was one thing that we didn't wait too long to get in there. But there was one time that we walked by the queue line for that, and it was like stretching out to like Pandora. And so we were like, okay, maybe we don't go to this show. But that's the thing about Festival of the Lion King is if there's one show that looks super crazy busy, it's going to happen again in about 30 or so minutes. And so that's kind of what we did. And actually when we went back, which I think it was for the next show, we were able to just kind of like walk in and just walk into the queue. So that was very cool. Festival of the Lion King, definitely would recommend. I very, very much enjoyed that. The performers were great. I've seen videos of it. They're not doing any of like the trapeze stuff. I definitely saw those trapeze people around kind of performing, but they don't do any of that stuff. But kind of everything else for the most part, from what I understand, is still going on. It was very cool to kind of see that they have like floats that come out that with all the characters on it. So it was very cool to kind of see all of them. And just the whole thing was a very fun experience. So it was very cool to be able to do that for the first time.
I love that show. It's a great show. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to see it. I wish it would get some of that trapeze stuff back, but in due time, right?
So yeah, I think.
Did you finish a whole day there?
Yeah, we actually did, and it was funny. I think that at one point during the day, we were thinking, "Hey, are we actually going to do a whole day here?" And we were actually able to do kind of like fill the day with things. So we were able to. The very last thing we did was go to what's that lounge called? Nomad Lounge, which was very cool. And I actually have a couple things to say about it. And it's not so much about Nomad Lounge. It's kind of more about the experience of being a Disney person who lives far away from the parks and a Disney person who lives right at the parks. And so this is very much relevant to our podcast, and we'll probably talk about it at length. But Nomad Lounge was very cool, and being in there was fun. I think just from the clout, I was excited about being there because you always hear about how amazing Nomad Lounge is and how everybody likes it. I don't know. It was very cool. It was very fun to be there. But I feel like it's more exciting for locals. And so I feel like we're going to try to talk about that at length a little bit more. But that was one thing that I kind of like realized. Maybe it was the end of the day, and I was thinking a little bit more, and maybe my drink was maybe making me think a little bit more. But that was one thing that I kind of thought about was like, hey, like this is fun, but I'm not blown away by this. But people talk about this place all the time about how amazing it is. So that'll be something that we explore further in this podcast. It's very relevant to the things that we do. But that was kind of my experience. I enjoyed it. It didn't knock my socks off. And maybe it's just because it was just kind of like a bar to us. Like it wasn't this like new fun place to go at the parks. It was just kind of like a lounge that we were able to go to. And so just kind of thinking about how a normal, and we would say this all the time, like would normies come in here and be blown away by it, or would they just kind of walk in, ask for a drink and be like, oh, that drink was pretty good. And not know that they were just in Nomad Lounge that all the YouTubers talk about. So, that was one thing that kind of occurred to me while we were in there, but we did do Nomad Lounge. We very much enjoyed that. Right before Nomad Lounge, we actually got our 2 popcorn buckets. The popcorn buckets we actually bought in the parks. So we actually, this was kind of a fun memory that I had, was just downing popcorn underneath an umbrella while it was raining. So that was fun. But yeah, we hit up Nomad Lounge. Right around that time, it had finally started to get dark. And so we were able to go over to the Tree of Life, and they have all of these fun projections that they put on to the Tree of Life at the end of the day. And Kristen wanted to kind of wait around and watch a couple of them. So we had a lot of fun doing that. And at that point, it was the end of the night. And I think we were there till park close, which was 7 a.m.
The park was open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes. Or did I say 7 a.m.?
You did.
Jeez. Yes, 7 p.m. So we were there from open to close. And we had a lot of fun. Even though it was cold and rainy, we were able to make it happen. We actually, Brian, one of the things that we did was we took that path that kind of takes you up close to the tree. And we were able to kind of go through that and look at all of the cool things there. So that was one thing, one of the many things that I did that I have never done before. So
I think the other 2 things that I enjoyed, even in the cold rain, was walking through the Gorilla Falls. Mm-hmm. We were able to see a mom and baby gorilla, so that was pretty cool. And the other thing that I made a huge effort to see was kite tails. We actually missed the one that we wanted to see because we waited a little bit too long to get our bill after eating at Yak and Yeti's. But we were able to catch the next one. And we sat there in the rain, in the cold, but it was actually pretty cool. And they still will do kite tails if it's raining.
That's true. But I've actually heard that a couple times they will cancel kite tails if it's raining too much.
Boo.
Maybe if there's lightning. But yeah, it was raining and we were there and we sat and watched kite tails. So it definitely does still happen if it's raining. But yeah, I have to say, I think I've mentioned on this podcast before that like I wasn't too excited about kite tails. And I'll say it again, it's really nice to have somebody with me who's also into Disney, who knows these things. Because I probably wouldn't have gone and seen it on my own. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's definitely, I mean, it's different. It's not like your typical sit and watch fireworks, and it's not your typical like sit and watch a castle show. But it was fun. Like I have to say, like I was skeptical about it and I was kind of poo-pooing it when it first came out. But like I can see the appeal. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I'd probably watch it again. So, and that's saying a lot. So yeah, it was definitely something that I didn't think was going to be very good, but it held up. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I would probably watch it again the next time we go. Just because I think that they do different movie scenes, because we saw, I think it was mainly just the Jungle Book. So like Baloo was in it and like the elephants were like marching around at one point. But I know that they also do the Lion King. They have big Lion King inflatables and maybe a couple other movies. I'm not sure.
But yeah, we saw Kite Tails. Kite Tails holds up. I don't know if it's better than Rivers of Light, but from what I've heard of Rivers of Light, it's probably better than Rivers of Light. But yeah, we did that. We also, so the dining at the park, we had a reservation for Yak and Yeti, which I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty good. We did have a little trouble with getting our bill. So it's actually quite the opposite issue with Le Cellier was this guy just didn't come back with our bill very quick. But that's also that's a Landry's restaurant. So it's not technically a like Disney run restaurant, which honestly, I mean, I'm a Landry's fan. Like you guys know that I like Landry's restaurants. That is and Rainforest Cafe is Landry's. And so I'm a Landry's fan. Like you could put me in the fan club for it. So I enjoyed it. It definitely is kind of a different vibe than the other Landry's restaurants. And I feel like it's put together a little bit better. And there's a pretty decent ambiance in there. It doesn't feel kind of that same like weird vibe where it's kind of like fast foody. But I enjoyed it. I thought the food was good. The only issue that we really had was we couldn't get our bill fast enough because we wanted to go see Kite Tails. But yeah, that was our one reservation that we had there. We also ate at Avatar Land. I always forget what this restaurant is called.
Satuli Canteen.
Satuli Canteen. Yes, this is the third time I've eaten there, and it's always really good. We got the cheesecake that was very good. I always this is funny. I always surprise whoever I'm with that cheesecake. I surprised my brother and sister both times. I just like end up putting it on the bill, and then I show up and I'm like, "Hey, we got cheesecake," and I should surprise Kristen with it. But yeah, that food is always very good. I always very much enjoy that. And we actually found this out. We made our we ordered our food before Satuli Canteen was open. So we actually kind of like headed over there. We actually kind of did this by mistake. We didn't even know it wasn't open yet, but we headed over there, and we were like one of the first people waiting outside the door before it opened. We weren't waiting there for too long. It was maybe like 5 minutes, but they opened the doors, and we were like one of the first people to get our food. We were like one of the first people in there for the day. So that was fun. We were able to sit wherever we wanted to and enjoy our meal there. It was cold. Again, I'm going to reiterate for the people who are listening, it was cold at Disney. And we actually, after we got done with our drinks in there, we filled up with hot chocolate and coffee. The coffee wasn't that great. I think we threw the coffee away. But we did that, and then we kind of like went on with our day. But those are the two places that we ate, and then we had drinks at Nomad at the end of the day. So that was those were our dining experiences. And this was the first time I had a sit down restaurant at Animal Kingdom. And I always hear good things. And so I was happy that I was able to do that and have that experience, because it was very good. And it's it's a fun experience to be able to do that. So we want to hear about the times that you've been to Disney and trip reports that you want to give us.
Yeah, it would be great to have you guys give us an email, Miles from Main Street Podcast @gmail.com. Let us know if you've been there. We want to hear what kinds of tips you might have along with those trip reports. So reach out and let us know so we can get you on the show and we can talk about that. Also, be sure you're hitting up our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok accounts. You'll find those linked within the show notes. They are quite easy to find, and we're pretty active on them. So please come on out and join us for the conversation there.
Until next time.
Some live close,
and others don't.
So let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.